Hello friends, and welcome to the Forgotten Past. On this channel, you'll explore untold stories, lost events, ancient discoveries, and hidden secrets from across history. Let's view the video. In the heart of medieval Scotland rose a warrior destined to change history, Robert the Bruce. From noble roots to kingly ambition, he led a defiant struggle for freedom. This is the tale of a man who defied an empire and became the liberator of an oppressed nation. Robert the Bruce was born on July 11th, 1274, into the powerful Bruce family, whose lineage traced back to Norman knights. His grandfather once claimed the Scottish throne, giving young Robert a lifelong awareness of his royal potential. Raised among aristocracy, Robert received a chivalric education in arms, politics, and loyalty. Scotland's succession crisis began after King Alexander III died without a male heir in 1286. The throne's vacancy triggered a national panic. The Guardians of Scotland invited Edward I of England to arbitrate among the claimants, a decision that would lead to decades of war and occupation. Among those vying for the crown were John Balliol and Robert's grandfather. When Balliol won the judgment in 1292, Robert's family felt cheated. Tensions rose between Scotland's nobility, especially as Balliol's kingship proved weak under English dominance. Robert, still young, was learning how ambition and alliances shaped power. Bruce initially submitted to Edward I, accepting him as overlord in hopes of long-term gain. He held lands in both England and Scotland, forcing him to balance conflicting loyalties. Yet under Edward's oppressive rule, Robert began to see submission as betrayal to his homeland. The fire of rebellion was igniting. Edward I treated Scotland as a vassal state, humiliating its nobility and dismantling native power. While other nobles bowed, Bruce watched. Quietly, he distanced himself from English politics and fostered ties with allies who opposed occupation. His silence was not weakness, it was patience, awaiting the right moment to strike. Though publicly loyal to Edward, Bruce's heart lay with Scottish freedom. His growing disillusionment with English rule, combined with his family's legacy and ambition, made rebellion inevitable. Robert was no longer just a nobleman. He was a claimant, a leader in waiting. The dawn of revolution was near, and he would be its spearhead. By 1305, Robert the Bruce faced a crossroads, still torn between loyalty to England and longing for Scotland's freedom. He knew peace under Edward I was an illusion. With rivals watching and time running out, Bruce chose the path of no return, one that would begin in blood and end in battle. John Comyn, known as the Red Comyn, stood as Bruce's greatest political rival. A descendant of royal blood and cousin to John Balliol, Comyn had strong claims to the throne. Tensions between the two men simmered for years, both seeking to be Scotland's saviour under the shadow of English rule. In early 1306, Bruce arranged a secret meeting with Comyn inside the Greyfriars Church in Dumfries. There, he offered a power-sharing deal, possibly surrendering his claim if Comyn supported independence. But what happened next remains one of Scottish history's darkest moments. Comyn betrayed Bruce's offer to Edward I. Furious and fearing arrest, Bruce confronted Comyn again inside the church. Words turned to rage. Bruce drew his dagger and stabbed Comyn before the altar. As Comyn collapsed, Bruce fled outside. His followers reportedly asked, "Is he dead?" Bruce replied, "I doubt it," prompting them to re-enter and finish the deed. The murder sent shockwaves across Scotland and Europe. Killing a nobleman was treason. Killing one in a holy place was sacrilege. Bruce was immediately excommunicated by the Pope. Yet instead of retreating, he accelerated forward. He knew there was no going back now. He would either be king or condemned. With urgency and defiance, Bruce rode to Scone Abbey. On March 25th, 1306, with few supporters, he was crowned King of Scots. The ceremony was rushed and improvised, but symbolically powerful. Despite lacking military control, Bruce had declared himself sovereign, an act of rebellion against both England and the Church. From that day, Bruce was no longer just a rebel. He was a hunted king, declared an outlaw by Edward I. But his act of violence had changed the game. Bruce's ambition had erupted into war, and Scotland was once again engulfed in blood, betrayal, and the dream of freedom. After declaring himself king, Robert the Bruce was swiftly condemned. Edward the Fair labelled him a traitor, and most Scottish nobles refused to support his cause. In the early days of his reign, Bruce found himself hunted, abandoned, and defeated. His crown brought not power, but exile and near ruin. Bruce's first major challenge came at the Battle of Methven in June 1306. Ambushed by English forces led by Aymer de Valence, Bruce's army was routed. He narrowly escaped with his life, but many of his supporters were captured and executed. The defeat shattered his credibility as a viable Scottish monarch. Bruce fled into the Highlands with a small group of loyal followers. Constantly pursued by English forces and hostile clans, he hid in remote forests and rugged terrain. His wife, daughter, and sisters were captured and imprisoned, while his brothers were publicly executed, crushing personal losses that hardened his resolve. During this time, Bruce is said to have hidden in a cave on the Isle of Arran. According to legend, he observed a spider repeatedly trying to spin a web despite constant failure. Inspired by its persistence, Bruce vowed never to give up. Fact or myth, the story symbolizes his indomitable spirit. While in hiding, Bruce shifted his tactics. Abandoning open battle, he embraced guerrilla warfare. Striking swiftly from the shadows, he relied on speed, surprise, and intimate knowledge of the land. Support began to return, especially from Highland clans, who admired his bravery and shared his hatred of English occupation. Edward I, the Hammer of the Scots, died in July 1307 while marching north to crush Bruce. His son, Edward II, lacked his father's military strength and iron will. This change gave Bruce a crucial opening. For the first time, the pressure on his forces eased, allowing him to regroup. With renewed spirit and loyal men, Bruce returned to the mainland in late 1307. No longer a fugitive, he was a hardened warrior, leading a cause shaped by loss and survival. The path to Scottish freedom had nearly killed him, but it had also forged him into the king his people needed. After years of hiding and defeat, Robert the Bruce emerged transformed. No longer a desperate fugitive, he was now a cunning commander. Scotland's tide was shifting. With Edward I dead and Edward II weak, Bruce launched brutal campaigns to reclaim his homeland. His vengeance would be swift and ruthless. Bruce targeted Comyn loyalists first, wiping out his political enemies. In the north, he led savage attacks on the Comyn stronghold of Inverness and across Moray. Resistance was crushed without mercy. Bruce's fury was personal. These weren't just battles, they were acts of cleansing, solidifying his rule and erasing old rivalries. One of his greatest victories came at the Battle of Loudoun Hill in 1307. There, Bruce used the terrain to trap and annihilate English forces. It was a turning point, his first decisive win in open combat. Scots rallied to him, sensing at last that freedom was possible. As Bruce advanced, he refused to let England use Scotland's castles against him. He adopted a harsh strategy. If a castle couldn't be held, it was destroyed. He razed them to the ground, no safe havens for the enemy. It was war without compromise, a message that Scotland would not kneel again. The brutality shocked many, but it worked. Every act of destruction sent a message. Bruce would not rule a divided or weakened nation. His scorched earth policy hardened the country but cleared the path for unity. More clans joined him, bringing horses, men, and unwavering loyalty to the cause. While England descended into internal strife, Bruce was building momentum. He eliminated rival Scottish claimants like the MacDougals and MacDowells. Their defeat left Bruce uncontested. For the first time in years, Scotland had one leader, one flag, and one goal: full independence from English rule. By 1312, Bruce controlled most of Scotland. He was no longer a mere king by title, he was king by conquest. His rise had been forged through blood and fire. Now, only one great test remained: to confront England's army directly and break their hold once and for all. By 1314, only one stronghold remained under English control, Stirling Castle. Robert the Bruce laid siege, drawing England into a confrontation. Edward II marched north with a massive army to relieve it. Bruce knew the moment had come. Victory here would shatter English power and seal Scotland's fate forever. Bruce chose the ground carefully, marshy terrain near Bannockburn that favoured defence over numbers. While Edward's army vastly outnumbered his, Bruce's troops were disciplined, experienced and motivated. His strategy was clear: fight smart, exploit the land, and stand united. This battle would not be won by strength, but by skill. On June 23rd, the battle began with a stunning event. English knight Henry de Bohun charged at Bruce, expecting an easy kill. But Bruce dodged the lance and split Bohun's skull with an axe in full view of both armies. The dramatic act electrified the Scots and terrified the English. The next day, English forces advanced but struggled in the narrow, boggy fields. Bruce's schiltrons, tight formations of spearmen, held firm against cavalry charges. The English were trapped by terrain and confusion. Bruce's command and his men's discipline overwhelmed the invaders in waves. The momentum turned decisively toward the Scots. As chaos unfolded, the English army broke. Some drowned trying to flee across the Bannockburn. Others were cut down or captured. Edward II barely escaped with his life. It was not just a military defeat. It was an embarrassment that shattered English prestige and invigorated Scotland's hope for independence. Scottish losses were minimal, but the psychological impact was immense. For the first time in years, Scotland stood truly free of English occupation. Bruce was no longer just a rebel or warrior. He was the champion of Scottish liberty. Bannockburn became legend, passed down in ballads and banners for generations. After Bannockburn, Bruce tightened control over Scotland and began pushing for official recognition. Though the war dragged on, England never fully recovered from the defeat. Bannockburn wasn't just a battlefield triumph. It was the birth of a nation's enduring spirit, forged by the sword of a king who never surrendered. After Bannockburn, Robert the Bruce held Scotland in his hands. But military victory wasn't enough. He needed legitimacy. England still refused to recognize his rule. Bruce shifted to diplomacy, building alliances, asserting kingship, and striving to secure lasting peace. He was now more than a warrior. He was a statesman. In 1320, Bruce's allies drafted the Declaration of Arbroath, a passionate plea to the Pope affirming Scotland's independence. It declared that Scots would never bow to England, and that Bruce was their rightful king. This bold document helped shift international opinion and remains a cornerstone of Scottish identity even today. While still fighting England's border raids, Bruce also campaigned in Ireland, supporting his brother Edward Bruce's bid for kingship there. Though that effort failed, it diverted English forces and expanded Bruce's influence. These campaigns showed his ambition. He sought not only to defend Scotland, but to lead a united Gaelic world. Eventually, even England's will broke. In 1327, Edward II was deposed. His successor, Edward III, faced pressure to end the costly war. In 1328, the Treaty of Edinburgh-Northampton was signed. England officially recognized Robert the Bruce as King of Scots. After decades of bloodshed, freedom was finally achieved. Bruce spent his final years strengthening Scotland. He reformed the legal system, rewarded loyalty with land, and protected the church. Though suffering from illness, likely leprosy, he ruled wisely from his court. His reign brought stability, unity, and a rare peace in Scotland's long, turbulent history. On June 7, 1329, Robert the Bruce died at Cardross. His heart, as per his wish, was taken on crusade by Sir James Douglas, but was lost in battle. His body was buried at Dunfermline Abbey, laid to rest as the king who freed his people from foreign rule. Robert the Bruce's legacy endures. He took a fractured nation, divided by betrayal and foreign domination, and turned it into a sovereign kingdom. His courage at Bannockburn, his wisdom in diplomacy, and his unwavering belief in freedom forged Scotland's national identity. He remains a symbol of resilience, unity, and independence. Thanks for watching The Forgotten Past. If you enjoyed the journey, like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a hidden story or untold truth. New discoveries await. See you in the next video.